Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another match of Super Rugby Pacific. This one, the Reds taking on the Blues in a must-win fixture for these two sides. The way that the table sits, we have recently seen the Chiefs get themselves another 5 points, so they move up to 37. But with a loss to the Force and the Tars having a bye, means there's a lot of opportunity for growth here for these lower ranked sides. For the Reds, they can create quite a substantial gap between them and number 5, the Force, moving anywhere between 27, 28 points heading into the next week. But, of course, it is the Anzac Day weekend, so we have got ourselves the last post, which will be taking place before this match does take place, but this kickoff is not too far away. And for the Blues, if they can win this contest away from home, they can actually overtake the Waratahs and find themselves within the top 6, potentially at the end of this round, depending on what does happen in the future as well. Looking through at the Reds starting lineup, we see Fagasi as the number 1, Richie Asiata and Zayn Ngor as the front row. Canham and Salakai Lotto will be the 4 and 5. Sururu, Fraser McRoy and Bryle as the number 8. For the Reds, Tate McDermott and Tom Liner in the 19 combination. Paisami and Pakeho in the midfield. Tim Ryan, Lockie Anderson and Jock Campbell. A lot of pace in the back three here for this Red side. Looking through at the Blues starting lineup, they have had to make quite a few changes due to injuries. And they have got Josh Fusitua in the front row alongside Kurt Eklund and Angus Ta'aval. So no Ricky Riccatelli in the starting front row. Patrick Tuipulotu and Josh Berry will be the locking duo with Cam Christie, Anton Segner and Hoskins Satutu as the number 8. Finley Christie and Harry Plummer as the 19 combination with AJ Lamb and Rico Ioane in the middle. Cole Forbes out on the left wing. Mark Talia out on the right. Those two have actually switched by the looks of the lineup. And then Zahn Sullivan at number 15. Now, a few of those guys that I mentioned, the likes of a Ricky Riccatelli, Bowden Barrett also wasn't mentioned, but he is there off the bench for this contest. So quite a strong one for the Blues when it comes to the later stages of this matchup. For the Reds, they have got their fair share of talent across the board too. It's going to be important that they start this match well. They are going to be wearing their Anzac kit as well, I should mention, which is kind of like a camo green with the silhouettes of the soldiers down on the abdominal. Looking through at recent form for these two sides, the Reds, they were able to get in fact, they've had a bit of a tough run. I was about to say as well, they did start this season well, but last couple of weeks, she's gone downhill. They've had a couple relatively similar losses by the 13 points. 13 and 12. There we go. Got there in the end. And then for the Blues, it's been a frustrating season. They've had a lot of close games. Some of them they've won. Some of them they have not quite. Their game up against Moana Pacifica, it's the best that they have played. Well, with the exception of that second half up against the Crusaders as well. We have got there one more light for 4. And also we have got their Lol Boo says Drake, but we're so much as he late. That came through at 9:30, which I believe was the start time. So if we were, I'd say it was only a few seconds, but still within the minute that we were supposed to be starting. But these two sides just about to make their way out of the tunnel. Probably a little bit of a later kickoff than the 9:35, maybe closer to 1:45 for this matchup. But we are getting closer to the end of the season. It's important that these sides do get themselves victories, building towards top 6, of course. The Reds, if they can win this game, I would say it would be very tough for them to miss out. Whereas for the Blues, if they were to lose this game, I think it would be very tough to make it. But there is still potential, like I said, because of the Force loss. Blues are playing them next week. That game, if there were ever going to be one individual match for the Blues that could make the difference, I believe it's that one. Because even if they lose to the Reds here, that game with the Western Force, the Force will either go up or down after that stage. So they have to get that victory. They are at home for that contest. Fiji and Roa, they will be taking on the Reds, and there is a bit of a gap in the action, followed by Hurricanes versus Chiefs, Brumbies versus Waratahs, and Highlanders versus Moana Pacific. And now throughout next weekend, there is also so much rugby. There is the Under-20s Rugby Championship that will be kicking off in the near future. The women's game is going to be starting up. The LA Sevens Men's and Women's Championship and playoffs both taking place. The Challenge Cup semi-finals, the Champions Cup semi-finals, and ideally we're going to be covering a little bit of it on the channel. So yeah, we're not sure of the schedule yet, but it's certainly going to be hectic throughout those weekend matches. I'm hoping this game's going to be a bit hectic like the last game. We saw it be a high-scoring one taking place between the Chiefs and the Western Force. In that game, we saw the Chiefs get that bonus point, though, like I said. So that puts a bit more pressure on the Crusaders fighting for that number 1 spot as we head towards the end of the season. Summary of last week's matches as well. We did see the Brumbies get themselves a good win over Moana Pacifica. They kept Moana Pacifica pointless in that matchup. Crusaders having a close game with the Blues, 25 points to 22. The Fijian draw beating the Tars by 14. The Chiefs having a good win over the Highlanders, and a draw taking place between the Force and the Hurricanes. Now you will notice no Reds. They had the bye for last week's game. Sounds like a little bit of the bagpipes taking place at Suncorp Stadium here as the two sides do get ready to make their way on. But like I said, game probably kicking off at around 9:45 p.m. for this matchup. We have the Up the Landers, says Williams. So yeah, massively important game taking place between them and the Crusaders tomorrow. We will be covering that one on the channel. The game prior to that is Moana Pacifica versus the Fijian Roar. And let's go, says Pro Pleb in there as well. But the crowd sound loud. It's Suncorp by the looks of it. Decent attendance for this matchup. And yes, says William. But I do want to know, ladies and gents, who do you think will win this game? Do you think the Reds will be able to do it at home? Or do you think the away side, the Blues, will be able to get themselves the victory? Now, the Blues come in as slight underdogs for this matchup. Who you got? So, honestly, that match, it's a tricky one. And like the Crusaders' current form is tough to beat. But I feel like the Blues showed weaknesses that if the Highlanders can exploit that, they should be able to really have a decent crack. But safe bet's definitely the Crusaders. Okay, there, the Blues, says Bruce. And same says William. I'm rooting for the Blues, but I'm afraid they won't pull through, says Pro Pleb. And the Blues, says Marlon. This is prediction as well. So it does look like the Blues, even though they are slight underdogs, seem to be the favourite in some regards. But yeah, they have to play well. They've got some great players in that starting lineup. So Tutu's there. They have lost Dalton Papali'i from the starting side. No Bowden Barrett in the starting team. Same with Ricky Riccatelli. They are both making their way off the bench. Reds will win by 10 points, says Sean. So in that case, who's the guy for the Reds you're saying is really going to be the playmaker or the man who gets the tries throughout this game? I have to say Tim Ryan. He is one of those players that when he's in form, he's hard to stop. I think Hunter Paisami as well. If he is able to really run straight at AJ Lamb and create space in that centre pairing, that's where we see chances to come through for the Reds. Hey, Hamish and everyone, hope you're all well. I think the Blues will win, says John. So it seems to be a bit 50-50 overall. What we will quickly do, though, is we will actually check the poll and see how it is sitting in there. I think that maybe based off what we've seen here, probably the Blues would be the favourite in the poll, about 60-40, maybe even 70-30 in that regard. They have just got the moment's silence for Anzac Day. We'll quickly go here to the poll, and the verdict is 72% for the Blues, 22% for the Reds, and a few people back in the draw, 5% in total. And I assume that is maybe because of what we saw last week with the Western Force and the Hurricanes. They had themselves a golden point contest, which did end in the draw, which we haven't seen too often. Two sides going past extra time. They are still having that moment of silence. And while they are doing that, we will once again show the starting lineups for the Reds. Sev Agassi in the starting number 1 jersey. Asiata at 2 and Ngor as the number 3. Canham and Salakai Lotto in the locking duo with Sururu, Fraser McWright, and also Bryle as the number 8. Tate McDermott, Tom Liner, Hunter Paisami, Palkio, also Anderson, Ryan, and Campbell as the back line. Then for the Blues, Fusi Tua, Kurt Eklund gets some starting minutes ahead of Ricky Riccatelli, who will make his way off the bench, and Ta'aval as the 3. Tui Pelotu and Berry in the locking duo with Cam Christie, Anton Segner, and Satutu there as the number 8. Finley Christie and Harry Plummer as a 19 combination. AJ Lamb partnered with Rico Ioane in the midfield, of course, heading to Leinster in the near future. And then Mark Delia, Cole Forbes, and Zahn Sullivan as the back three. Should also mention the Warriors going not too badly at the moment in the NRL. We'll try not to give too many spoilers for that matchup, so yeah, we won't give away what is actually happening in that one. What we will also do is we'll go like this, and we'll go like that as well. But, of course, do let me know who you guys think will be the first try scorer of this contest. We have got their winner, Sevens, please. Sevens will be next week. Rico scores tonight, says Shane. My money's on the Blues, says Patrick. I have a feeling that the Blues will win by 5 to 10 points. Could happen. That's the thing. Like, this Blues side, unfortunately, they've been a little bit lackluster at times, and I don't think that that's unreasonable to say. They haven't found their rhythm, and you know, it's one big game away, I feel, from their season getting back in the right direction. But it's just a hard one. They have to make sure that they do find it early here. They've had handling errors. They've had penalties against them. Let us go the river and sing the Blues. Let's go Blues 20-6 over the Warriors. And the Blues win by 9, but the Reds to lead at half time, says Warren. That's very specific, Warren. But if it is, tell you what, we're going to put a little mark next to that one. If it happens, I mean, we're gonna put the message up on the screen and say Warren's a wizard. I think Mark Talia to score first, says John. Probably not a bad shout. Talia, he's been due a few tries and he's been close multiple weeks. And now Rico. And who does everyone got for the Crusaders versus the Landers? And come on, you Blues, says Gary. And also the Blues are so stacked, says William. See, that's the thing. Even without Bowden Barrett and Ricky Riccatelli and Papali'i in the starting lineup, they are still a really strong outfit. Highlanders to win by 50. That would be impressive, wouldn't it? If they were able to do just that. It looks like they are doing the raising of the flags at the moment for before the contest. I believe this game was initially scheduled for 9:35, but it did get changed to 9:45 due to the Anzac remembrance. And also, I think I missed a message earlier on about Rico scoring maybe. But yeah, I do want to see Rico find some sort of form before he heads to the north. I mean, we've seen what's happened with Geordie Barrett since joining Leinster. He's been able to find that next level. Right, we've got the national anthems now. So I think this is actually going to be a little bit of a later start. I think it's probably around 9:50. Australian and New Zealand national anthems are slightly long, but not like extremely long in that regard. And up the Landers, says William. So we'll look through at the benches while we have got the anthems being played for the Reds. They have got Blake Hodgman and Delitis as the number 18, Angus Blythe and Ryan Smith in the 19 and 20 jersey. Then Bryant, Kalani Thomas and Jeremiah Murray as the number 23 for the Blues. They have got Ricky Riccatelli, also Mason Tupaia and Tui Pelotu, Lachlan McWannell, Adrian Choate. So a 5-3 split here for the away side. Sam Knock, Bowden Barrett and Corey Evans as the number 23. So honestly, really, once again, strong options to be able to use later on in the contest. It's just whether or not it can be effective in this matchup, whether they find their rhythm early, avoid the penalties, keep the ball in hand, don't go throwing it away. We have got up the BLUES, says Kiwi Rob. Our Warriors are looking great at home. This is such a perfect matchup. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this one's played a little bit like a test match in terms of both sides a little bit more structured early, trying to win the territory battle, and then second half it's probably all going to kick off. There'll be a bit of tension, a bit of push and shove, I would assume. And we have got their Knights too much to right now, says Drape. Or not too much right now, I should say. I guess if they maul Eklund, says William. They're ready to win 34 points to 25, says Highlanders there. So you're going for the 11-point win. Oh, sorry, the 9-point win for the Reds, which is similar to an earlier prediction I think we saw too. We still need a GP game where we have a winner. Yeah, if we get a golden point matchup that actually has a result, that's the thing. the Western Force and the Hurricanes both had a very good shot of winning that game during the extra time. Both missed drop kicks. So it's one of those ones that, like, we had our chance to see a result in extra time, but instead everyone drew. And honestly, it made it a little bit closer because the Canes got those extra points that they required. The Force, they'd probably be happy enough with those extra couple too. Definitely with their loss to the Chiefs just recently. We shall never forget, says Drape, unless we forget Kiwi and Aussie brothers, says Sebastian. And thank you to the troops, says William. And there as well. And Hamish, what happened in the Force game scores? So the score was pretty one-sided. The Chiefs were able to get themselves the substantial win in that matchup. Now, they did get the bonus point. I'll get you the exact score. 56-22, the end score there. So, comfortable win for the Chiefs, who do move a little bit further ahead in that number one spot. Australia, New Zealand, says I missed all in there, but we have had the national anthems, which means we are not a mile away. Oh. Okay, there's going to be stay remained on your feet for a dismart. I think that was. And ouch, says Albert. Yeah, not exactly the result that the Force were after, but it means that if the Blues win here, they actually move into the top 6, which would be a pretty impressive one with the season that they've had. But it just shows that even 6 teams going through for Super Rugby. Like, I know people were complaining that they got rid of the quarterfinals, but with the amount of teams in this comp, the fact that everyone still has a chance, there aren't really any excuses for missing out on that top 6. As you can see, Moana Pacifica, if they lose to the Fijian Drua, then the Fijian Drua move up to 15 points. Moana might be on 16. Everyone's all jockeying for that number 6 spot. But we see a couple big wins. Moana Pacifica, they have a chance of moving up to 7th if we see the Blues and the Hurricanes and the Highlanders all lose. But at the moment, the Aussie sides are still within the top 6, all 4 of them. And they will still be looking to stay there by the end. There we have good there. Italy is going to beat the Stormers in Cape Town tomorrow, says Albert. I mean, Benetton are a decent away side. And, you know, every once in a while they have a bit of a shocker, but most of the time, you know, they don't go too badly. Right? Everyone making their way from the field now. Not the players, but the soldiers out on the park. So I would say about a 9:50 p.m. kickoff is still the way that it looks. I think that the Lions, their matchup for me is that little bit more intriguing because, you know, they're at that point now. Maybe there's not as much to play for in that game up against Connacht, but they have to still make sure that they get that win. But, yeah, very intriguing what is happening in the URC at the moment. We are also going to be covering that Glasgow Warriors versus Bulls match. That is kicking off at 6:35 a.m. New Zealand time tomorrow morning. So that is in about 10 hours time, I believe, that match, or a little bit less, 9.5 hours. So we're going to be able to sneak maybe a little bit of a sleep in before heading into that match. Yeah, first half, not a mile away from taking place in this fixture. Players will be all warmed up, rearing to go. Rico Ioane just having a bit of a chat there with Satutu and Mark Talia. Don't know whether or not they're discussing tactics or what, but we saw that brilliant pass from Satutu last week, around the back, and the assist after AJ Lamb did score it. I want the Landers to win the whole thing, just because I support them. Just think the final and Dunners in the Zoo living it up, says William. Unfortunately, the chance of a home final's probably not that likely anymore for the Highlanders. They'd have to make up heaps of substantial ground by then. Jake White said the game against Glasgow is circled in red in the Bulls dressing room, says Albert. Well, hopefully they play like it. You know, that game last week up against Munster, don't get me wrong, a win's a win, definitely away from home, but I think the Bulls would look at that contest, say it was quite scrappy. The first half, their forwards did very well, but yeah, I feel like if they were to beat Glasgow, of course, just winning it would be one thing, but to be able to win it comfortably in assertive fashion would certainly make them feel pretty good heading into the playoffs. Hammy, good to be back, says Spider-Mink. The problem is William, the Zoo will be empty, says Kiwi Rob. The Zoo will be, I mean, it wouldn't be if the Highlanders were hosting a final or a semi-final or anything like that. Who's going to win, says Dashk. It's a tricky game. Honestly, hardest game of the weekend to pick in terms of who's going to be able to win it. I feel like the Reds certainly have a great side on paper. The Blues the same. Reds off recent form, they've lost 2 games in a row, including last week up against the Brumbies in a game that I feel they should have at least been a little bit more competitive. So they'll want redemption. Plus, with where they sit on the table, if they win this next game, that boosts them a little bit further away from 5th and 6th. It then means that the Force and the Tars are the 2 sides jockeying for their spots, and the Reds would be that little bit more secure. Reds is not the team to take lightly, says Spider-Mick. Exactly right. I mean, this Blues side, we've seen them play brilliantly at times. Second half up against the Crusaders was the perfect example of that, but they've also had some really shocking moments. And during those shocking moments, normally it leads to a try for the opposition. And in a tight contest like this one could be, you can't afford to be giving away tries to such a dangerous team. The Landers have the best fans, says William. And Warriors 24 points in the night, 6, says Rope. So yeah, nice lead. In that case, for the Wars, who are looking to climb up, I think they're about 5th at the moment, aren't they, in the overall standings, facing the Knights, who are down in about 13th or so. Just a few drinks for the players on the field. We've already been going for 21 minutes. That has gone by very quickly. And yes, sir, says Rape. I think they've just mentioned about a little bit of rain. Stop spoiling it, says Kiwi Rob. I mean, to be fair, only about 2 minutes ago we did see the score put in the chat as well. So he didn't really spoil anything that we didn't already know in that regard. But now, Tui Pelotu. It's going to have to be a leader out there, red versus blue, says Timothy. It's going to be a great battle in the midfields. AJ Lamb, Rico Ioane on one side, Hunter Paisami and Paukiho on the other. He loves running it hard, straight. Delay, says Timothy. There was a bit of a delay due to the Anzac side of things. People might be recording it, says Kiwi Rob. And can you say hi to my cousin Harsh, says Dash. Hello, Harsh from Dash. There you go. Bit of Dr. Seuss in the house. Kiwi Rob is now 26 points to 6 lol, says Drape, and Blues by say 18 plus. Wait, didn't you just say before that it was going to be a tough game? Or Red's not a team to take lightly, but 18 plus win for the Blues? That seems like you're taking them lightly. Just a little bit, but it's kicked off. The Blues have got this ball now inside of their 22. We are underway for the second match of Super Rugby Friday. Finley Christie rolling this ball back. It looks like he has decided to get a bit of a haircut, which I don't think was a terrible idea. And it's going to go into touch. That was close to out on the full, but it will be now the line out for the Reds. So Richie Asiata with this throw. Now, at the start of the Chiefs versus Force game, we saw some wonky throws coming from Taukiaho. That one slipped through the fingers, but a brilliant pickup from Tom Liner. Get it away to Hunter Paisami. Tate McDermott goes across now to Bryle. Oh, your guys' new All Black selections. Mine are Tawatawa Nawai, Amoni Narawa, and Riccatelli. Says William. Oh, Segna told to get out of that one. I do think that Moananu at the moment has a decent shot. We talked about it a little bit on the last live stream. I also would love to see Braden Yossi, but I don't know whether or not Razor would look at him as an option. Don't get me wrong, he's been great this year for the Hurricanes, but I don't know where he'd put him now that Satiti is back. And semester will be over by the time the final is played, says Kiwi Rob. Now going back across to the right-hand side. Now back to the right. Liner going off to Bryle again. I don't trust the Reds. Good team, no doubt. Says Spider-Mech, and they are already up to 8 phases just outside of the Blues 22. Big shot coming in on Lukan Salakai Lotto. McDermott goes across to Suru. And now again, off to the right. In fact, this time, shifting left for Tom Liner. Patient build-up here for the Reds. They just had to make sure that they're not making any simple errors. Ta'aval trying to get in the breakdown and look for that steal. Jock Campbell goes across to Dre Pukio. And there's going to be the advantage there going against Cam Christie. Couldn't roll out of the breakdown in time. Now they can just keep on throwing themselves at the opposition. This is where normally we see someone like a Papali just grab the ball and not let it go. He's not playing today. Tui Pelotu gets that roll. And now they have the early chance of either taking on 3 points or the corner. I just wonder whether or not the Reds will go aggressive here. The ground looks ugly. says Kiwi Rob. I mean, the last match that we saw between the Chiefs and the Force had a literal cricket pitch in the middle of it. Suncorp doesn't look too bad compared to that, I do have to say. Who are you guys, or who are your guys' Super Rugby Player of the Year? Mine is Artie. I mean, what he's been able to do for Moana Pacifica has been absolutely huge. Breakout player, probably Moananu, I would say at the moment. It's looking pretty good in terms of the Kiwi sides anyway. You're trying to roll out of there was Cam Christie, and I couldn't quite work out what the coach said there, but it would have been something along the lines of that was a very stupid penalty to give away. Thrown in, nicely taken, and nice rolling maul setting up here. Who's actually got the ball? It looks like it's in the hands of Fraser McWright. Very confusing for a second, but the Blues have done well to be able to defend it. The Blues will take this one, says Marlon. Now McDermott pops it up to Lucan. Salakai Lotto. Oh, trying to get over the ball was Ta'aval. Fraser McWright just short. Zainungo almost able to stretch out Siruuru. He will back himself to go over, but instead unselfishly passes it off. McDermott going in behind. Tom Liner drops his. He goes over. That was very close, and the referee awards it. And the Reds have struck first in this match. Oh, well. Quick start from this Red side. Tom Liner, the man who does manage to break through. A little bit of disappointment there for the Blues. They just found themselves defending for the first 5 minutes of this contest. A little bit of rain falling as well, I should mention. But that rolling maul almost moved forward too quickly that they weren't even able to get the man in there. That line out wasn't straight, says Kiwi Rob. And there they are, just showing the fact that they just managed to get that ball down. But yeah, they have opted to go for the line out multiple times throughout this season. And Liner, out of all the players, a little bit Bowden Barrett-esque, I guess you could say, with the way that he ran at the line. It was the standout player of the year, minus Caleb Tangitau. Tangitau's been impressive. Leroy Carter also has looked great. Moananu, like I mentioned. When you're competing with a team that normally has All Blacks in it, when you face the New Zealand sides and you're looking like the better hooker when it's only really your debut season, or at least in the starting lineup, it's certainly impressive. Kicked off long, though, and the Reds did get that kick over, making the score 7-0 now, favour of the home side. And got game says Mr. All in. The Blues will take this one. Now, going to be firing this one back into the pocket. Tom Liner will kick it up the middle of the field. That was close to that touchline, but I don't believe it went out. No, it didn't, so it will be play on. Kicking it downfield, back into the 22 of the Reds. Jock Campbell, that was almost a late clean out there from Zahn Sullivan. Sets up for Mark Tully. A lot of space to work with here. He kicks it off. Down into the 22 again. Liner with all the time in the world, but he's taken that one outside. But he's looking for the 50-22. The Blues cannot afford to leave that one. Harry Plummer just running it across field to create his angle. Does kick that one into touch. We'll be around the halfway line, but it is a line out for the Reds. Good start to this contest. I just talked about Tom Liner and the fact that his boot is pretty big compared to most of the Australian 10s. And 7-0 already damn, says Highlanders. Yeah, they started this match very quickly. A little bit similar to what we saw in the Western Force Chiefs game. We actually saw the Western Force score the try early on. Now McDermott. Back across. Tom Liner will kick this one high again. And knocked on by Zahn Sullivan. Picked up by Campbell. And Tangitau set to be back next week, says Highlanders. So that will be a massive addition into that Highlanders team. McDermott. Across to Hunter Paisami. Passes on the outside to Jock Campbell. Gap opens up. Liner once again runs through. And he will get his second try in 7 minutes. Cole Forbes, they might check to see whether or not he was obstructed, but he was a support runner. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But Liner has cut another hole in this Blues defence. And barring the major disaster, Warriors will win, says Drake. But tonight he's had 2. For the season he's had 4. And why is there 2 tries already, says Drake. And people say the Blues are back, says Islanders. Although this game not over yet. The Chiefs did concede 2 quick tries up against the Force. and went on to beat them by about 34 points. We're going to see here, Tim Ryan, I think he was just there as the support runner. That was tackled in the ear. Says Kiwi Rob, geez, you're going back a long way. I thought you were going to try and say it was obstruction instead. And who do you think takes this one out? I mean, it's hard to not say the Reds after scoring twice, but I do think the Blues have got something in them. Or at least I'd like to think that they would. Are the Blues still in Auckland? They are normally, but for this game they are at Suncorp. And they are 12-0 down. In fact, 14-0 down after that kick goes over. And go the Reds, says Monique. Yeah, what a brilliant start for the side update. Still raining here in Ireland, says Pie Man. And it's still raining at the rugby, a whole different country. And it's still wet, so seems to be raining quite a few locations today. Nicely taken. Inside of the 22 by Bryle. Thoughts on mixed. Talking about Papali'i playing out of position primarily based on his size. I can see him at 8. Says Elson. Yeah, see, it's a bit of a tricky one because the role that Papali'i plays for the Blues, he's getting in those breakdowns quite a bit. But, like, historically, you know, like when you look at the number 8, Savia, when he switched to 8, you know, we don't see him as much in those breakdowns as when he was playing in the 7. So it's a tricky one. But once again, we talked about it earlier on about how, you know, little comments like that, it stirs up opinions and increases interest for when Robertson does select his side, because Papali'i, you know, there's even rumours that people think he's going to be the AB skipper, which I don't think would happen, but we'll see. A long way to go, early days. Yeah, come on, Blues now going to the short side. AJ Lamb managing to break through one going short side. Finley Christie back across to Josh Berry, and this is what the Blues needed. Some much needed offense inside of the 22 of the Reds. Now going back across to the side. Cam Christie, he gets to hit it up this time. Josh Berry, a very floaty pass to him. Reds jersey looks great. It's got the silhouettes of the Anzac soldiers. It does look very good indeed. Kurt Eklund now. 10 metres out from the line. If I'm not mistaken, they may have worn it last year too, didn't they? This Reds kit. And then Christie goes across to Plummer. Now Ioane off to Lamb. Oh, he's going to be hard to stop. Tate McDermott only just managing to do so. Looked like Eklund wanted it on the short side, but instead they will go back inland. Tui Palotu skip pass, goes past him to Fusi Tua. See Hoskins Atudu waiting for it here. He's looking at the opposition line, but by the time Christie gets the ball out, the opportunity was gone. Satutu, though, sits down one and is driven backwards by 2 Reds defenders. Christie's got to get that ball out quickly. At the moment, he's allowing the Reds defence to get set. They are defending pretty well. Fun fact, the Bulls are only team to have beaten the 4 Irish teams. Says George. Also, I'm surprised and happy at the same time that Australian team's doing well. They are going back for the original penalty, though, after 17 phases. I've decided that the Blues weren't quite getting where they wanted to. And this, more than likely, I would think, will be a kick at the corner. When you're 14-0 down after only 11 minutes, you have to look to be aggressive. Harry Plummer told to hurry up by Jordan Way. Yeah, some nice link-up play there from the Blues. Then just short of the try line. And Owaza second. Says Highlanders will win. So, yeah, they're having a very good season so far, the Warriors. On up throw for Eklund. Nicely taken by Berry. A little while to get down to ground, but now ready to get this rolling ball going. Eklund's over. And the Blues get their first try. It is a move that they've gone to multiple times this season. The rolling maul. And Eklund will be happy with that one. Are the Aussie teams better or New Zealand teams worse this year, says Albert? I still think that the table isn't as accurate as it could be, because we've also got to remember the New Zealand sides are playing New Zealand teams, the Australian sides are playing Australian teams. The Chiefs and the Crusaders are beating most of the New Zealand opposition, whereas the Australian teams have kind of passed it round a bit, which has led to them being a little bit higher up. What would be quite interesting to do, we've got the table here. Heading into this round, we can't really do it because, of course, there's 5 New Zealand teams, 4 Australian teams. I was going to say, doing a little bit of the maths. Oh, Harry Plummer's being timed out there. Oh, okay, they're checking this maul. Why are they letting a Queensland referee be in charge of this game? Says Kiwi Rob. Probably cheaper travel, isn't it? And yes, well done, Blues. They need more teams, to be honest. And need Blues, Hurricanes and Tars to lose, says Highlanders. And who do you think will be in the Final Four? Well, it's an interesting one because the loser of one of the playoff games gets to go through, whoever's the highest ranked team. But I do think that the Chiefs and the Crusaders at the moment are looking pretty solid. The Brumbies, if they have a home game for their semi, I think that they'll probably get the win there. They are just checking it again to see if it is a legal setup. So it's pretty much whether or not they broke away. Right. Tate McDermott's getting called over. Plummer had one job, says Thorfinn. It's going to be no try. Okay, so it's still going to be a penalty to the Blues, but it's going to be no try. But it also means that Harry Plummer did not get timed out, and Jordan Way has got that wrong. Well, he wasn't in charge of it. The TMO was. And the final will be Chiefs vs Crusaders. Crusaders will win by 8, says George. Oh, so you're going to Chiefs Crusaders final again, taking us back to the Aotearoa days. But yeah, they have said that the Reds joined early on Josh Berry. Right, so yeah, they've said about once the shoulder touches, it becomes obstruction. I'll be honest, I don't know my rolling maul laws well enough. But obviously the TMO will have much better knowledge of the game than I'd like to think all of us. But now Eklund to throw that ball in, nicely taken by Tui Pelotu. That is a much better drive now from the Blues. Kurt Eklund. In fact, this time it looks like it's going to be Satutu who has that ball at the back. It's going to be well defended for now. Christie wanting the ball. Satutu breaks off the side and he is very close to scoring this time. No, he's going to be held up. Or is he? Oh no, penalty 5 metres out from the line. If the ref and TMO there, I said it, says Spidermick. And Highlanders, or final will be Highlanders versus the Druid. Tell you what, you're very optimistic. If that is the case, those two sides would have to go on winning streaks and a half to get to that point, and a lot of top sides would have to lose for that to happen. Time for a warning, says Kiwi Rob. Typical Queensland referee. So where's the TMO from, Kiwi Rob, out of curiosity? Have you looked at that, or are you just blaming Jordan Way? Because at the end of the day, the TMO was the one who overruled it, who told Jordan Way to blow his whistle so that he could check it. But now, ready to throw this one in for the Blues. Once again, 5 metres out. Who's going to go over this time? Well defended again by the Reds. It's like a training drill at the moment. Both sides. Oh, breaking off the back for Eklund. That looked almost too easy, but he's going to be held up now too. And looks like the TMO is going to have to be involved here. I'm going to have a lot of stop-start by the looks of this one. But Eklund, he's saying, I've got that one down. He's put the ball over the line. Great D, says Anthony. Although they left a big gap for Eklund to be able to run through. On field is no try. They just want to see whether or not there is that clear grounding. Landers versus Draw final in 2037. Super season, says Drape. Oh. From that angle, it's very hard to tell. But you'd say benefit of the doubt would be that that ball does get... Oh, no, that's not down. That's not down. Maybe there. But it's going to be held up. An on-field decision of no try will stay. Now, there's no denying that eventually Eklund did get that ball down. But they didn't really play it out for too long. I think they decided it was already held up at that stage. Like they've said there, Tom Line and Tate McDermott almost baiting Eklund into going over the line so that they could try and hold him up. Timos are destroying the game. See, here's Patrick. Yeah, see, I think about probably there when about the third Blues player joined in, probably when Christie slammed on top. Here comes Satutu though. Oh, he ran that one hard at Fraser McWright. Score after the 15 minutes still remains 14-0. Very eventful at the moment. Zahn Sullivan going for a kick and behind. I don't understand that. They had all momentum moving forward. And then now it's a mark called by Jock Campbell. Blues looking likely, says Drape. Yeah, they've been very close to scoring multiple times. Penalty still, not this time. So they did get the ball off the goal line dropout, and then Zahn Sullivan kicked it away and gave it to the Reds. So 2-2, that was a big carry from him near that halfway line. Already 16 minutes in. The Reds are leading 14 points to 0. Chance here, though, for Kurt Eklund to try and get this throw right. Tackles 48 made by the Blues, only missing the 2, so their defence has been pretty strong. The problem is those 14 points, though. Right, Jordan Wade trying to get more players to set the line out. It's going to be thrown in by Kurt Eklund. Nicely claimed, another penalty advantage. Does go in favour of the Blues. Finley Christie told to use it. Goes across to Josh Fusitua. Now, thought about going with the pick and go there from Hoskins. A 2-2, AJ Lamb. The 9 is off. Where are we talking? The 9 is offside. I'm looking through for him at the moment. I assume that was from something probably about 2 or 3 minutes ago. So I don't even see McDermott at the moment. Harry Plum, a little bit of hesitation there. Thought about the offload. Nope, they'll go back for another penalty. And Sullivan will never be an All Black doing that stuff, says Thorfinn. Everything destroying the game, the high deliberate ref, DMO, talkback, etc. Says Spider Mech. It's going to be interference in the air penalty going against the Reds. And once again, we see the Blues kicking for the corner. Sullivan, Ioane, both looking pretty sad, really, in terms of, like, they look like they're defeated, even though we're only 19 minutes into this game. The Blues have been on the verge of scoring multiple times. And yes, when you have a couple disallowed tries, it can affect you a little bit. But those are definitely Ioane. He's a senior player in the team and needs to really try and fire this Blues backline up and get them ready for this. They do have Tui Pelotu to do it for the forwards, but they need Ioane in that backline. That's somewhere where you see Bowden Barrett talking to them normally. Oh, it's going to be overthrown. Setting up for the rolling ball. Well cleaned by Harry Plummer. 10 metres out from the line again. Another attack and run this time from Cam Christie. 5 metres out. Round the side, Kurt Eklund. He was close to scoring, but did have it disallowed. Now dropping his head is Hoskins Satutu. The Reds have to release him. They're going, we don't want to, or else you fall over the try line. Round the side, Tarval pops it up. Another one over the try line, and it's held up again for the Blues. This will be extreme frustration for this Blues side. That's about the 3rd time they've been held up. And Blues need to step it up, says Drake, but it just is the decision-making too. The Reds, straight away we can see it. Their backs are going under, trying to hold the player up in the air long enough so that one of the big forwards can get in there and help stop them from placing it down. It's a tactic that you don't see many sides doing because normally you risk letting that try through, but the Reds have done it very impressively so far throughout this match, and that's where the Blues need to use their backline. There's no point having players like Mark Talia out on the wing if you're not going to use them. Another knock on this time coming from the Blues. And the Reds going to have themselves a scrum. And good D2 by the Reds, says Drape. Already a quarter of the way through this contest. It has been absolutely flying by. See it there, Cam Christie just dropping that ball too. I'm starting to lose interest in rugby union. I'd rather just stay with my Melbourne Storm, says Spider-Man. It'll probably save you quite a bit of money too since you back the Blues most weeks. I don't think we should be allowed a full Aussie referee team, says Kiwi Rob, although we've had a full New Zealand referee team in a New Zealand versus Australia game too, so it kind of does go both ways. You could argue on WF held up again. The Reds must have trained to do that all season. Yeah, it looks like a deliberate tactic. of pretty much go a little bit lower, not even worry about the tackle, but just try and tie up the ball. And then hope that with momentum you can slow them down enough and then rip them up so that they don't get the ball down. The Blues should have kind of cottoned on to this by now. I know that that's probably a tactic that they have to try and avoid. When one of those referees is an ex-Reds player, says Kiwi Rob. I mean, we've seen it with Nick Berry before. He was an ex-Reds player in there as well. But, yeah. It's one of those ones that you'd like to think that there wouldn't be biased and you'd think that bias would be punished. But you don't know the process of the referees being selected, whether or not there are refs that they feel are more suited for certain games. That's who I am talking about. He's not a referee in this game, though. This is Jordan Way, who's from the Sevens side of things, or at least he's had a bit of Sevens experience in the past. He's actually one of the only referees I've seen go off the field for an HIA when he got knocked out by one of the Sevens players. I noticed 2 Australian teams come out fast this year with quickfire tries to catching us off. There's Drape, and that is going to be a penalty now going the way of the Blues. Yes, he's an assistant referee. Okay, so assistant. So he's not going to have a lot of say in this contest, I wouldn't think. If he was the main ref, absolutely. He's actually refed games for the Reds as the main referee. But as an assistant, he's definitely not, I would say, responsible for any of the decisions, or at least not many of them anyway. Finley Christie doing very nicely, locking over the ball. Now, line-out throw here for the Blues. That Sevens player knock him out deliberately? No, he just ended up wrong place, wrong time, didn't he? It wasn't like a punch or anything like that. He just ended up getting pretty much collided with in the middle of a tackle. Probably the reason Rico and Zahn look down is because the Blues tactic is not using their backline, give the ball to the backs. And it looks like they're going to use it here. Here we go. Harry Plummer, short ball to Sullivan. Gets within a couple meters. And they've got a new advantage. This is where you shift it. If you're the Blues, they do go across. Cole Forbes, bit of a rough pass though. It doesn't find the hands. It's going to be a double blow of the whistle though from Jordan Way. And time for a yellow card, says Kiwi Rob. They'll certainly get close to it. Next one will go to the bin, says Jordan Way there. And Tui Pilotu just asking what that penalty was for. I assume if it was going to be something that was a double up, then Tui Pilotu might have said maybe now's the time, but I think he kind of went, oh yeah, okay, slightly new one in that regard. Is he assault rifle? Says a Drape. Yeah, we saw the 2 Reds players trying to lock themselves over the ball. It did slow it down a little bit too. But the Blues need to capitalise on what they've been able to do here. They've had territory for days in the last 15 minutes or so. Just feels like the only time the Reds have actually had the ball is when they've had the goal line dropouts and when Sullivan's gifted it to them. I've seen there, time in opposition 22. Only 2 minutes 24 actually registered. And the rucks in the opposition 22, 20 so far for the Blues. I think we need to get points early tomorrow so we don't play catch up later. Oh, and that's the penalty going the way of the Reds. Blues players losing their footing at the scrum time. I think it was Eklund here who they've penalised. And same with Ta'aval for the front row collapsing. I'll relieve the pressure there for the Reds, and Tom Liner will be able to kick that ball into touch. But the goal line defence has been very impressive. Yeah, just losing the feet, slipping out from underneath them there, Ta'aval. It is still raining, so it's a little bit slippery. That's because of the ground, says Kiwi Rob. Probably, yeah, he slipped. It's unfortunate. BS says Spider Mech. And it feels we also have 2 big players injured. Our 2 best wings are out, says Highlanders. And also Blues falling apart at the moment, says Rape. That one's going to be a cross kick, knocked back. Oh, that might have been accidental offside from Mark Dallaire. Yes, it was. And it means that the scrum feed goes the way of the Reds here. He was just in front of his teammate. And it did bounce back. Going to see the replay here. So Zahn Sullivan tried to go for the catch. And it does knock off him into Dallaire. Our Reds player slipped, different story, says Spider-Man. But we don't know that, though, because we didn't see a Reds player slip. I would assume, it would be similar. 25 minutes in to this contest, the Blues. It's another error from Zahn Sullivan, knocked on. Been a good counter-attacking opportunity. Hello, says Drape. Already the 2 converted tries. I wonder when the Blues... Oh, early push on this near side from Josh Fusitua. They just aren't helping themselves at the moment here, the Blues. If the Reds... Oh, Linear tries to kick it, goes straight to Sullivan, who tries to kick it in behind. Didn't get a huge amount of distance on it, but it's going to keep on rolling into the 22 of Linear, who won't be able to put it into touch. Oh, Mark Talia at the back, ready to run this one forward, passes it across to Harry Plummer. Decent bit of contact there. Now running forward, Jock Campbell just inside of his 22 will look for the touchline. Didn't quite get the angle that he was after, but about 42 metres out, it will once again be a Blues line out. Les Kiss shouting. Well, not really shouting, just assertively talking into his walkie-talkie there. Okay, Eklund ready to throw this one in. It's gone over the top. Loose ball picked up by Satutu. Nicely done. Gave it off to Lamb. Finds Talia. Now Rieko Ioane tackled on the halfway line by Suru. And Bodie needs the pressure, says Mr. Wallen. Bodie's off the bench, so yeah, when he makes his way on, there might be quite a bit out there, depending on whether or not we see any more tries coming for this Red side before the end of the half. I'll take McDermott. On off to the right-hand side again now. Already 26 minutes through. Seen 2 tries within the first about 10 minutes of the game, if not the first 5 minutes. I think it was about 8 minutes. Second try was scored by Liner, and since then it's gone quite a lot of chances for the Blues. Oh, loose ball. McDermott has to pick it up. Goes across to Jock Campbell. What is happening now, says McHale. Still sitting 14 points to 0. And that is a good kick in behind by Campbell. Blues put to 30 metres out from their line now. Mors Muliaina in the commentary box has just said that everything kicking-wise is going the way of the Reds in terms of that battle. Tate is part of the line-out, says Kiwi Rob. Oh, that one is going to be stolen. Yeah, I did hear Jordan Way saying keep back 10 metres. I'm not sure whether or not that was at McDermott or Asiata. I think it might have been Asiata that he was actually talking to, but I still don't know if he was back as 10. What URC you got for us, says Revenge. We are going to be doing the Glasgow versus Bulls match tomorrow morning. That is a 6:30 a.m. start, so it's going to be a bit of a brutal one. And then hopefully 3 games back-to-back tomorrow night for us here in New Zealand, which will be tomorrow afternoon in South Africa, right through to the evening. But that could change. Hopefully not, but there might be 6 games in a row that we are going to be covering. Nice run forward from Lukan Salakaialoto again. After Hunter Paisami, Tom Liner, that's a great tackle by Talia. That's managed to knock the ball free. And, there was a knock on. It was in the tackle. See the replay here. In fact, no, we're not. But it was great steal at line-out time from the Reds initially. If the Blues can get 1 try, they should score a few more in a few minutes. Says Drake. Yeah, they just need to break that drought. If they can get 1 more here. It's playing in the air in the last line out. Says Kiwi Rob. It's play in the air. As in the one that the Blues player the one that he almost had the control of, and then they got the Reds won the line out. That one, I assume. Because as long as you're not playing the hand, I believe it's fine to contest the line out, isn't it? Because you're both just going same spot. Post-contact meters. We've seen more from the Blues. They've had some decent stats. He's playing the arm, says Kiwi Rob. I feel like every single thing that goes the Reds' way, you're going to find a penalty against them. So then you're going to tell them off for their hair being too long, like they're back at high school. Now going off to the left-hand side. Tom Liner goes into the middle, almost through for Pacquiao. Oh, set a knock on from McDermott. If not, he's going to be running forward now. And he better be analysing the game well from the bench and then implement that game when he comes on. Now, nice run from Salakai Lotto. Well, that's the thing. If Bowden and McKenzie are jockeying for that 10, there will be times where both of them make their way off the bench. So you'd assume that in this case, this is the type of scenario Bowden might quite enjoy. You know, they're down by a bit. He can be a game changer. We saw that in the second half up against England way back last July, I believe it was. Now 6 phases in at the moment for the Reds. Oh, McDermott, he's knocked it on that time. Josh Berry gets it off to Satutu, who will sink the slipper into it, and that is a very good kick. Downfield, awkward bouncing one, but Jock Campbell is back to cover. He's got Tim Ryan with him. Oh, lined up by Talia, but he tipped him up. That was dumb from Mark Talia, trying to up the aggression, double blow of the whistle. He might be going to the bin here. And that is just frustration at its finest, trying to get a good shot in. He's penalised for the dangerous tackle. Now, in the old school days, that tackle would have been considered completely fine. And normally, you know, it's just that little lift that gets him in a bit of trouble. Is it raining there, mate? It is raining at Suncorp at the moment, but they are going to be going upstairs for this one now. There's nothing wrong with that tackle. So here's Kiwi Rob. Right, they're going to look at it now. But Talia, it was a big shot coming in. He lined him up early, knew who it was going to. Managed to hit him right in the midsection. We're going to see it now. So first initial contact's all well and good. But then he tips him up. He lands on the side of his head, so that's an ugly one. Like, he did all the hard work there, Talia. He lined him up. He put in the big hit. All he had to do was drive rather than lift. And it would have been completely fine. Well, this player safety for Snowflakes, Jen, is crazy. Says, right, what happened to the Blues? Albazar says Kano, and that is going to be a yellow card to Mark Talia now. Why do the Blues suck this year, says Albert. The main ones have really been discipline and handling. And unfortunately, they've mixed and matched those quite nicely. Some of their games, they play phenomenally. But yeah, it was a great shot. And then he just lifts. Oh, the Aussie ref got that one wrong. I would say 90% of referees would have given that as a yellow card around the world, whether they're from Australia or not. Like, anytime someone lifts the legs above the horizontal, you're pretty much just asking for a ref to sin bin you. It's sad because it's not the way that it used to be, but in current laws, you know, you're just asking for trouble. Well, you expect Aussie ref, of course, cheating, underarm, sandpaper, you name it, says Spider-Mick. Now, that one's going to be nicely taken by the Reds. Tom Liner goes across into the middle of the field. They have got the man advantage for the next 10 minutes, which means right through to half-time. They'll have the extra man on the field, missing Sam Derry. I think so. I think he's one of those guys that seems to add quite a bit. Like Josh Berry at times has actually been pretty solid this year, and some are even saying he could have half a shot of making the ABs if there's an injury or two, or, you know, if Tui Pilotu, if they want to link him up with him in the ABs kit. But yeah, it's definitely a tricky one without Derry. Yep, any lift now has been, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. They wear a black uniform. Says Drape, how good is it to have Wallace Satiti back? He looked really strong in his first game back. Had that breaking run, couple good solid carries. So seems like he's going to pick up from where he left off. Hopefully just avoids the injuries before the, I was going to say November internationals. Of course, that would be a bonus, but also the July internationals up against the French. Tate McDermott leaving a bit too much of a gap there, looking for the offload, but it sits up for Segner. And there is the knock on from the Reds. They will go back for the scrum. Have the Reds scored again? They have not. Just the 2 early tries from Tom Liner. Other than that, been in a bit of a stalemate. McDermott just showing off the offloading ability, although it didn't quite go into the hands. He actually got set up by his teammate, who did run one side and then ran away to the other by the time he looked for the offload. Currently 7.5 minutes remaining of that yellow card. 8 minutes remaining of, 7 minutes remaining, I should say, of the first half. It has gone quite quickly at that early patch, the Blues were on constant attack but just couldn't quite get over the line. And now it looks like the fatigue's starting to set in a little bit. They need to try before halftime just to give them some form of confidence heading into the second half. Ball about to be fed in. In fact, the Blues this time will get the free kick for the early engagement from Sefagasi. Looks like Zahn Sullivan. He will just go for the big up and under. A rainy Queensland might be hard to line up. Beautifully taken by Tim Ryan, though. Fires it back across to Campbell. Looking for the 50-22. Won't quite get it. Plummer is back. He's been told to kick it. Sullivan says kick it downfield. Look for the 50-22. And then does not chase after it. The mark called by Tom Liner. Scott Bivay, Tui Pilotu, Lord and Derry. Holland, who else is looking good at lock? Like I said, Berry hasn't been too bad throughout the season. I mean, Koi's always about 6th or 7th choice, it seems, in terms of their rankings. You've got... what's Antonio Shelfoon's nationality? Is he a Kiwi? I know he's Tasman Marco, but... if he's a New Zealand rugby player. Honestly, like, he's 27 years of age. I actually thought he was a lot older. He's possibly up there at the moment in terms of chances. He's had a great season for the Crusaders thus far. Kurt Eklund going to pass it off to Hoskins Satutu. I've got a new advantage now. Satutu trying to break his way through Siru Uru. Now Finley Christie passes out wide, intercepted by Tim Ryan. Reds are just reading them like a book at the moment. Okay, Jordan Way said that he got information from the TMO that Bryle did change his mind initially, so that is why that penalty was given. Or I think it might have even been the assistant referee. It might have been on Nick Berry's wing, was it? Where is he? Yeah, I think that's Nick Berry on that far side, so he's the one who called the penalty at the scrum, or sorry, at the rolling ball. Red card for Mark Talia. It's been upgraded because Tim Ryan tucked his head and landed on the ground. Now, I agree that most times that is a yellow, but I don't know if the red card's the right decision here. We're going to see the replay. It was an ugly one, don't get me wrong, but Tim Ryan, if he's landing on his head like that, surely he at least gets an HIA, doesn't he? But it's going to be a big hit to the Blues and make their day go from bad to worse. Damn, says Mr. All-In. Now looking for the rolling maul, Kurt Eklund. RMG says Stuart Moore. But will this fire up the Blues, knowing that they're only playing with 14 for the next 15 minutes? They're only 5 metres out from the line now. Tui Pilotu. No, in fact, they're going to leave it for Berry now. Finley Christie goes off to Satutu. Tackled just 2 metres short. Ta'aval with the pick and go offside again. I think that the Reds might be playing with one less man in the near future. Fusitua looks like Cam Christie. What's he going to do? Goes up to Eklund, who falls over the line, and that was well done from Kurt Eklund. He waited because he knew that the Reds were going to try and hold him up. He just hesitated and then went over the top of them to be able to score the try. Wrong decision of the referee or match doctor. Didn't send him for an HIA. Oh. We're currently sweeping the try. What does that mean? They're currently looking through for a reason not to give it, I assume. And see, this is crazy soft rugby, super soft rugby. Hi, Hamish says Joshua Prattley. Hello, mate. How's it going? Hopefully your knee is getting better. We'll be all rearing to go for next season's cricket. We have got there. Yes, says John, and the Blues are doing what I thought the Crusaders were doing or going to do this year, and the Crusaders are doing what the Blues should be doing, says Kano. Yeah, we've got a bit of reverse going on throughout this comp at the moment. Hang on, Jordan Way's getting into it again. Or at least, oh no, it's been cleared. The TMO loves hearing his own voice, it would seem, because he has been involved heavily throughout this game. That kick has gone over, making the score now 14 points to 7. Now, Eklund did have a disallowed try earlier on, but now he gets it. So 14 points to 7 just before the halftime break. Hang on, where's the yellow card for our other penalty? Says Kiwi Rob. Yeah, I guess that's probably a decent point, that sometimes even when a team scores a try, they go to their yellow card anyway. Now 2.5 minutes remaining of the half, knee almost back to how it should be, says Joshua. So that is great news. Hopefully it does continue getting better. I guess because the cricket season's over, I don't think you were going to be playing rugby. So you've got a few more months just to keep on rehabbing it, and yeah, hopefully it does go back to 100%. Now, Finley Christie inside of the 22 for the Blues here. They will go off to the left-hand side to Berry. Still inside, so he will be able to kick this one towards the touchline. This is a tricky scenario here for the Blues because they don't want to put that ball into the hands of the Reds. But, of course, you don't want to be trapped inside of your 22. That's actually a really good kick from Finley Christie. Gets it down into Reds territory. Kiwi Rob wants blood for the red card. I agree, says Drape. That yellow card in the Chiefs game should have been red. I think that one was more of a red than Mark Talia's. The one from Gideon Rappling where he tried to decapitate Suali'i. Who plays between Roygaard and Ratama? Finley is not him, says Elson. It's actually tricky because, like, some would say Rowe hasn't gone too badly. Fakatave's always roundabout, but it's a tricky one. Honestly, there's about probably 5 guys that could go in there. Hotham, some would argue, should be considered after his last game. Nice run from Tim Ryan, but the ball dropped by Jock Campbell. Now Zahn Sullivan offloads to Situtu. Looks like the Blues are willing to run this one with 1 minute left on the clock. Tui Palotu straightens. Tackled 43 metres out from his line. Knock-on advantage is over. Plummer goes for a kick downfield and it sits up. Oh, bit of a handling error there from Campbell at the back, but has gone backwards. A big shot on him by Angus Ta'avao. Wait, was there a red card in this game? There was. Mark Talia. Initially yellow, upgraded to red. And, Segner over. Ball almost able to get the steal. Take McDermott, goes off to Richie Aziata. No, Brother Rob. They were never going to give us that, says Drape. And also why the Bulls sucks this year. The Bulls or the Blues? The Bulls are sitting about third in the URC. The Blues have been a little bit more 50-50, but they aren't out of this game. They needed a try before halftime. And, they've got that. There's the siren blowing. Is Christie just going to kick this one out? Looks like it might be the plan here for the Blues. Yes, they do. They will kick it into touch, accept the 7-0 deficit. Who have scored? Kurt Eklund for the Blues. Tom Liner, 2 tries for the Reds in this match. So, still another 10 minutes remaining of the red card and Mark Talia. Now, because we are in Super Rugby, it means that you do only get a 20-minute red card rather than the full match or the full match remainder. So, someone will be able to make their way onto the field more than you've got Corey Evans or Bowden Barrett. Those are your 2 options to replace Talia's red card. So, I would say that Bowden's probably not a mile off. We might see a bit of a reshuffle. AJ Lamb out to the wing. Tom Liner should be off for an HIA. Why? I don't think he's taken any big shots yet, Tom Liner, that I know of. And should be 21-7 right now, but TMO is a little biased, says Pro Pleb. And also the Bulls from South Africa. Shocking, mate. Sharks are better, says JD. Well, currently the Bulls are sitting, I think it's third in it. They are absolutely stacked, of course, the Sharks team. Yeah, currently Bulls on 54 points, Sharks on 49. They're both doing pretty well, respectively. And we have got there Bodie to fullback, Sullivan to the wing, says Elson. I think you need Bowden more in the action. I think Bowden 10, Plummer 12. And then, you shift AJ out to the wing. Or, here's an idea, maybe Rico Ioane should go on the wing. Could be an option. Why was Talia red carded? So Tim Ryan ran at him after a pass. Talia put in a good shot into his midsection. Boom, straight into the middle. But then he just decided in the follow through to pick up his legs and drop him on his head. If that was a red card, then the player should go off for an HIA. So you mean Tim Ryan, Kiwi Rob. Tom Liner, he's the one who scored 2 tries. Tim Ryan's the one who got hit by Mark Talia. The Bulldog, as they like to call him in Queensland. Bulls will choke Sharks, chances of winning URC. Says JD. I was going to say, says Mr. All-In. And also Anton Linnett Brown was seen wearing a sling at the end of the Force match. He went off relatively early and to me didn't seem like he had too much at least that he did throughout that first half. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the extent will be of that, but hopefully nothing too serious for Anton Lienert-Brown, as I do think he's in the running for All Blacks call-up again. Looking through at the benches for these two sides. Like I mentioned, Mark Taylor getting the red card, which does mean Beauden Barrett, Corey Evans, or I guess necessarily Adrian Choke, or sorry, not Adrian Choke, Sam Knock could also find himself making his way onto the field for that second 40 minutes. The Reds, they've got some great options off their bench. I've got Kalani Thomas, Jeremiah Murray, Hodgman's there, ex-Blues man, going up against his old side. There, lest we forget. Says Dane, and I wasn't here, says JD. And also, I was going to say, in there as well. But yeah, interesting first half, that is for sure. Probably the most involvement from TMO and whatnot that we have seen throughout this round, throughout the last few weeks as well, which is quite hard to do with some of the recent ones. Do you think, or what do you think of the Stormers? Or sorry, what do you think the Stormers need to turn around such an inconsistent season? They're actually a really hard one to work out at the moment because, they sit in 8th. A win this weekend, I believe, could actually push them as high as 5th. And then it looks like it's not too bad. But I think that when Sasha's firing, they go well. When he's having an off day, sadly, they do lose. We've seen that just in the last few weeks, how they went from, that last week's contest, I'll just find the result. Connacht, they won 34 points to 29. Now, Connacht actually got a lot closer in that game than they possibly should have, but they had a fair old crack at it too. But Sasha scoring 3 tries early on in that game. And then the week before, 38 points to 34, making a couple mistakes was the difference. But they seem to be on par with a lot of other URC teams. And it's just whether or not the X-Factor players step up. And when they do, they win. When they don't, they lose. But they've had some close games. Don't think it was red, to be honest. Was happy with a yellow. I was the same. I thought if you're going to give it as a yellow, that's fine. But red just seemed a little bit harsh in this situation. Like, we've seen 90% of those given as yellows. Not many of them are lifted up to that red card threshold. I need to bring them back to Super. Maybe just them, says Mr. Allin. I do still think that they're going to finish all right. If they can get in the top 8, the benefit that they've got is, they've had a couple good away wins this year. They beat the Bulls at Loftus, which is something not many sides can say. 19 points to 16. Bowden to 10, Plummer to 12, Lamb to 13, and Rico out on the wing, where he belongs, says Scrotimus. I would like to see it. I feel like it would be pretty interesting. Yeah, see, they're just showing the replay there. It was definitely a yellow, but I don't know if it was a red. What did you expect with all Aussie referee teams? Says Kiwi Rob. And Stormers to Super, says Sherwin. And having the Kiwi and Aussie commentators doing the games together, I don't know if it's just me, but it just doesn't flow right. It's probably just the chemistry side of things. Like, Mills Muliaina is so used to having Jeff Wilson or having, Tony Johnson. But I guess just having that mixture, it's probably just that little bit different, isn't it? They are actually talking to him at the moment, Mills Muliaina. And we have got the Red's going to come out with that same fire. Blue should counter with the brute force middle running, says Drape. And Rico to the wing, says Shane there. Well, that's the thing. Like, the Blues, I don't think it can be denied that they had their chances. They had multiple times where they were close to scoring, couple meters out, held up. They've just said there, 4 times in the in goal, the Reds were able to hold up the Blues. Now, the biggest thing about that, I believe, was the Reds were starting to work it out that if they went and targeted the ball rather than the player, like tackling him low was going to be a recipe for a try every time. They started targeting the ball, the smaller players, and just locking themselves over it. And then it was held up. Now, Kurt Eklund's last try, he was extremely strategic because he knew that would be the tactic. He saw them going low, so he just waited, let them go, and then went over the top of them. We're going to see the replay coming up soon here, I hope, anyway. And just to see the slight difference in tactic, and it worked. Do you think the belly aching about Rico Ioane at 13 is more of a 9 and 10 issue? Well, I do think that as a whole, last year, Rico and Geordie did not work that well together. Are you a fan of Sean Maloney as a commentator? I honestly think he's a bit annoying sometimes, says Xavier. It's an interesting one for him because sometimes, when he's commentating, he says some great stuff. And then other times people, I think, get annoyed with how he draws out like certain words and whatnot. I think I do that as well, though. So people probably get annoyed with me too. I never like the Aussie commentators. They always sound dull. Maybe it's just me. Says Kano. Well, they were recreating Satutu's pass around the back. It didn't look too bad. Not a single New Zealand team has won in Australia right now, says Tane. A single New Zealand team has won in Australia. Is that actually true? Because if it is, that is a very impressive stat. We're going to have to look back through a few games, aren't we, and just see whether or not that is completely accurate. It wouldn't surprise me, though, to be honest. Seen the Force. We've seen the Highlanders have a bit of a bad run when going over to Aussie by the looks of it. They also just haven't played each other much in Australia. I'm just looking through here. I think we've seen maybe 5 games involving New Zealand sides going to Australia, if not maybe less than that. Been a lot of derbies so far. That's why I also mentioned about it earlier on. The table, little bit deceptive. The fact that the Highlanders have lost 3 of the games away from home. The Chiefs have lost 1 to the Tars. And then we've also seen, I think it was the Hurricanes draw. And then I think there might have been 1 more in there somewhere as well. But yeah, not a huge amount of away games. Forced draw with Hurricanes in Perth, says Xavier. And also test winger Rico will score, says Shane. Sean Maloney, adult movie sound effects, he's quality, says JD. Just showing the difference in carries. The line breaks, we've only seen 1 across these 2 sides, and that was 1 for the Reds, not counting that as a win, says Tane. So yeah, they've played 5 games in Australia, 4 losses, 1 draw, by the looks of it. There hasn't been a good Aussie commentator since Gordon Bray. Jeez, that's a little way back, isn't it? You wonder when it's going to be the next, young players, or not young, but, retired players make their way in. You know how for New Zealand, the likes of a Mills Muliaina and those type of guys, and then a couple of those slightly younger ones coming up through. So you wonder who's going to be the next Aussie in there. Maybe Michael Hooper might be an option in the future. I know that he was doing a little bit for Stan in the past. Richie Bonneau. Out of the backwards pass better, Love or Satutu. I think that in the pressure scenario, Ruben Love's was very, very good. But I do also think that Satutu's one, yes, it kind of bounced to AJ Lamb, but in the situation, if that one was intercepted, the Blues were going to get, a lot of stick against them. So I think pressure-wise, the Hurricanes were in a bit more control, whereas Satutu's one, that was kind of we need this to be able to get back into it. Michael Hooper's done it already. He did last November. Probs do it again after his Japan season ends, says Xavier. Yeah, he's got quite a good insight when it comes to the breakdown and everything along those lines. We've seen there are only 5 missed tackles from the Blues. They've made 98 tackles, missing 5. That's a very impressive stat. And they've had 1 steal. The Reds have not had a single steal. We haven't seen a huge amount of work in the breakdown in terms of being able to get those interceptions or penalties as of yet. But that does not mean that we won't get to see it in the second half. Lineouts 100% for the Reds, 91% for the Blues. Now, to have 91 means that they've had about 11, I think that is. Can you explain why Tim Ryan didn't go off for an HIA if the TMO upgraded that to a red? Now, I should clarify, it was more so my opinion of maybe he should have if it was upgraded to a red. There's no thing in the law book that says that you have to go off for an HIA for a red card, but I just thought with his head hitting the ground that maybe he would have. Perhaps they checked him and they said, nah, he's fine. His mouth guard may not have registered as a big hit. So, there are a few factors that might have meant that he stayed out there on the field. But, yeah, it's not necessarily that you have to have a player go off injured for a red card to be given type thing. Miss Clark commentaries on Australia Rugger, says JD. Just showing the other games that are coming up this weekend. Moana Pacifica versus the Fijian Roar. Highlanders versus Crusaders. And Brumbies versus Hurricanes. All taking place tomorrow. I am hoping to cover all three of them on the channel too. And then in terms of what is coming up next week, the Blues will have the Force on the Friday night. That is a must-win for both of those sides. Definitely if the Blues were to lose this game up against the Reds. Drua playing the Reds in Fiji. Hurricanes, Chiefs, Brumbies, Waratahs, and Highlanders taking on Moana Pacifica. So the team that have the bye next week is, I believe, must be a Kiwi team. It's the Crusaders, who are going to be missing next week's action. We have got there. It was shot at first to hit the ground. No for Tim Ryan. And thoughts on Stephen Donald saying URC is very, very low level compared to Super Rugby. Do you agree? I disagree completely. I also don't think, like, this could be just a stab in the dark, and maybe it's not the case, but I also don't think that was necessarily his opinion per se. I think that he's been watching maybe a couple Geordie Barrett highlights, seen the Champions Cup games where Leinster have scored 114 unanswered points and haven't conceded for I believe it's over 3 hours. And, in fact, it's even more than that now I think about it. But I think that he's kind of maybe been set up a bit. And he's gone, Leinster are dominating, so the opposition must be poor. But I think that also a lot of praise needs to go to the way that Leinster have been playing it, doing it for the viewers. And it worked. Yeah, we said it earlier on as well. The breakdown, it's one of those shows that when they talk controversial, they get clicks. And, if he had said Geordie Barrett, he's a good player, should be in the All Blacks, 5 views. And now he said this, 300,000 or something like that, in terms of the extra views that they've been able to generate from it. So Stephen Donald might have just been the unlucky one who got to read off a sheet that said insult another competition because we want some viewers. What do you think of Rays as an AB's coach? I think he grew into the role relatively well last year. A lot of people were trying to sack him before he really got going. Your predictions on how many games Talia will miss? I wouldn't think it would be more than 3. And if it was, I'll be pretty disappointed. But yeah, it shouldn't be any more than 3. Normally 2, 3 is what they give for a rare card. They may even look at it and say maybe it's not as bad as we first anticipated. Leinster match day 23 has 950 plus test caps altogether. Exactly right. Geordie Barrett, as a great player, yes, he's had a bit of up and down form, but a great player joining into a great side is going to lead to sometimes one-sided games. It's no different to what we see in Super Rugby when a side does what we saw the Chiefs do up against the Western Force. But, yeah, I do think that if it was their marketing strategy, it's worked perfectly. We have got there, the Blues will need to put their socks, or pull their socks up night all, says Moa Hunters. And I wonder how many of our star youngins are going offshore. How long can the New Zealand Rugby Union hold the floodgates? But then I would wonder if the quality of rugby can perfect their play for the jersey. Now, attacking run forward from Berry, currently second half got back underway. Blues have possession around the halfway line. And Geordie looks like the best player for Leinster, says Elson. Yeah, he's been really stepping up. And it's been awesome to watch. Just having 2 competitions that you're a part of at the same time. The way that he's talked about being in the URC and then, shifting mentality to the Champions Cup. It's kind of something that is extremely unique just for Europe at the moment in terms of getting multiple comps to be able to play during the same window. Of course, for South Africa, you've got the URC, then the Curry Cup, but in terms of having to shift your mindset, it's a little bit similar to what you see for the football side of things of, you have your FA Cup and then you're into your Premier League. They should have let Caleb Tangitau play more to let him shine, says Dush. I think he's injured at the moment, so I think that's the only reason they aren't letting him play at the moment. Now, Kurt Eklund ready to throw this ball in. Does look relatively slippery out there for the second half, but the Blues, they need a good start. It's going to be overthrown. Asiata does manage to get it, so that's Really not a mistake that the Blues would have liked there at the end of the line out, or the back of the line out anyway. Hunter by Sami, shifting it through the hands, Lockie Anderson. It does look like Ioane is more out on the wing now defending. Wonder whether or not that is the case for when he's attacking too. That's going to be a big knock on from Zane Ngorn. Might have been knocked on by Satutu as well, but Eklund now straightening with his run. Thought about the offload, but decides against it. Christie, someone's boot went off. I don't think it was Satutu's, as his boots are blue. And speaking of Blues, they are up to 20 metres out. Finley Christie. It's good work at the moment from them. Phase after phase. AJ Lamb tackled 5 metres out from the line. Ioane almost in off his feet there in the breakdown. Got to be careful doing that this close to the try line. Christie going back across again. Anton Segner starting to pump his legs. Rico's right next to the breakdown. He looks like he wants to be a forward in this scenario. Unless it's just a setup to pop it up to Satutu. No, in fact, he wants to be a forward. He's just hit it up. McCroy, hands down, not able to get the steal. Eklund looking for another try. Couple metres out now. Back across, and the Reds once again going for their held-up tactic that they have used multiple times. Satutu slow back up to his feet, but he may be needed here. Looks like Tarval's going to go for it, and he gets over the line. And it's another try now for the Blues at the start of the second half. Northern Hemisphere media personalities often throw shade on Super Rugby, says Ashley. Yeah, and it's something like I mentioned earlier on. TMO going upstairs checking this one, I should mention. You know, when I said I thought Satutu knocked it on, I think that they're going back for that one. It's from Satutu round the halfway line. Now, the sad thing is, that was about a minute and a half ago. And I'm surprised that no one saw it at the time. Now, of course, this could be a different one that they've found a bit more recently. Here it is. So, yeah, we see that it was knocked on initially by the Reds off the knee. And then this is where Satutu does knock the ball forward. Clear as day. But come on, you got to call those at the time, not go back like 90 seconds. Reds knocked it on first. Correct. So they will go back for the scrum for the Blues. So, yeah, they agree with you there, Kiwi Rob. Southern Hemisphere media always throw shade on Northern Hemisphere rugby. Yeah, like I was saying, like earlier on, last live stream, we said for some reason in this current day and age, people just, they can't praise something without insulting something else. You know, it's the same with the rugby world that we see at the moment. You know, you can't just say Super Rugby's great, URC's great. You've got to, for some reason, say this competition's better than this one, and this competition now sucks. Like, rather than just praise, it's the same with a player. Rather than just saying, for instance, Satutu, he's playing well. It's got to be Hoskins Satutu's better than, and then fill in the blank. But that's because it gets clicks. And we have got there this crazy. So this is home refs are going to deny tries, says Rape and agree. Called it at the time. That's the worst thing, is the fact that I said, oh, knock on. But they're going to keep going, and then they kept going, and then they kept going, and then they scored. And then they went, ooh, hang on. Like, surely the TMO sees that earlier, doesn't he? How far back's he checking? Bro is spitting facts. Says Red 7. You're almost ranting at this point, aren't we, while we're waiting for the scrum to get down. The Blues have got the feed. Now, it's going to be solid here. And the Blues will look to shift this one off to the left-hand side. Zahn Sullivan goes off to Rico Ioane, who's hit hard by Dre Pacquiao. Now, I should mention, still another 6 minutes remaining of the red card. The Reds have defended well. I mean, they've had about 3 tries that haven't been tries. But still defending, I guess, overall relatively strongly. Now, Finley Christie goes across to Tui Pilotu. Don't spit, it's rude, says JD. Now, Angus Ta'avao, he'll be disappointed. He thought he got himself the big try. Off to the left again, Satutu. Now, he was quite slow getting up after a couple of those last breakdowns. So it might be one to keep an eye on. That's been called as a maul. Looked like knees were close to the ground. There might have been a bit of a similar scenario to the Blues Moana Pacifica for Savia. It did lead to the Blues try. So do we get that 1 minute back where the knock-on started, says Drape? The thing is, I don't mind that argument because I mentioned about it for that. Which game was it? It was in the URC, Connacht versus Stormers, and Connacht had a player in the breakdown. They ended up I think it was clearing a guy out illegally, and then from there they went on about a minute, scored the winning try, and then they went, oh, we're going to go back and check that, disallowed the try, but then of course kick it into touch, game over for the Stormers because that minute that they missed was now gone. So it's an argument that you could make. You know, if you're going to go right back to when something happened, do you take the time back that happened afterwards? Now, big push there. Looks like it's going to be the Reds ball. Tom Liner goes up to Hunter Paisami, looping around. He's passed that to absolutely no one. And, Tim Ryan just has to run that one into touch. Yep, it should, says Drape. And his knees were grounded, says Kiwi Rob. This is a good start to the second half, though, for the Blues. A little bit more, I want to say, composed. Northern Hemisphere punters 25 years ago. Where do we start, says JD. Yeah, it's one of those ones that, there's always going to be the ones who, rather than just praising things, will find a way of spinning it to make it sound bad. Yeah, you should go back, says Red 7. Oh, it's going to come off the chest of Salakai Lotto. I don't even think he got a hand to it. Charge down there, though. Eklund managing to block it, but now chance up the middle of the field. I think that's Richie Asiata. No, sorry, Dre Pacquiao. Now, spin there from, oh no, that slipped through the hands of Asiata that time, but we will go back for an original penalty against the Blues. The rain looks like it is starting to get a little bit heavier too, which means there are more handling errors. And it was a good charge down from Kurt Eklund initially. All he needed was that ball to bounce to AJ Lamb, and I think they would have scored there. And so right there, Amish, says JD. We just see, I think it was no clear release from the Blues in the breakdown. And yeah, rain is going at the moment. In fact, it's looking even heavier than I thought it was, and I thought it was getting heavier. Now, line-out throw here for the Reds again. You wonder whether or not if they got a penalty close to the try line, whether they would go for the 3. Just to get that lead by 7, or whether or not maybe you still back yourself to kick it for the corner. Now, the corner is the tactic that they've used multiple times throughout this year. That's going to be nicely taken. Now looping around Richie Asiata. They read him like a book. They were not letting that man through. McDermott goes up to Mick Wright. There's a lot of mix out there. And there's going to be a Mick knock on. We have got there, who's your mobs, Red? Says JD. Red card. Just 2 more minutes remaining till the replacement for Talia can come on. I think this is when you have to go Beauden Barrett. There's no scenario. Well, don't get me wrong, Corey Evans is a good player. But in this case, you need someone who's going to control this backline and find those gaps. The problem sometimes with Beauden, though, is he bloody loves a chip kick, doesn't he? Loves to chip it in behind, which in this case, I don't think the Blues need. They need line breaks, not little chips. And Red surely win, says Buttercorn Gaming. They should, but this Blues side, once they're back to 15, they will still not be an easy beat. Scrum from inside of the 22 as this live says Kanju. It is indeed. So currently 49 minutes through. And the Reds are up by 7. Finley Christie told to use it. He's watching and commentating, says Buttercorn Gaming. And Zahn Sullivan will kick this ball into touch. And just short of the halfway line now. I want to see the actual rugby thing, so you will have to probably get a Sky Sports subscription or a Stan Sports subscription or a DSTV subscription. I think those are your 3 best options for being able to watch Super Rugby. But yeah, free-to-air options are very slim around the place. Beauden Barrett, he's got his vest on and doesn't look like he's that close to warming up. But I do still think he should be the guy coming on. Blue should hurry up and score try. Red's out of gas now. Yeah, they just got to keep on applying that pressure. But now, loose ball, Tim Ryan. It wasn't straight, says Kiwi Rob. You should wear glasses so we can see it in the reflection, says Ashley. That is a great way of getting taken down off YouTube. Nice stepping there. Yeah, it's illegal for him to show the game because he pays for Stan. Says Buttercorn Gaming. Zane and Gore. Moving to 30 metres out from the line. Tate McDermott goes off to Hunter Paisami. Skip pass to Lukan Salakaya Lotto. This one would be straight out in front if they were to get any sort of penalty advantage. They still have the man advantage till the end of this play. McDermott goes straight through. Tarval's just left a gap the size of Africa, and that is the third try of the match for the Reds. That was just a good snipe from Tate McDermott. I don't think there was too much there that the Blues, well, other than, of course, closing that gap, they could have done once. He broke the line just too quick. Manages to make his way through. Does end up scoring the try. We see it there. Segna, he found himself situated behind Berry, and then that gap was absolutely huge. And Ta'aval, yeah, there was frustration from the forwards. Where's the team on the not straight line out? Says Kiwi Rob and Ta'aval. Says a Drake there, but sliding in. Third try. Now they are one away from getting a bonus point in this game, the Reds, if that was the way that it stays at the full-time. Wait, can this guy see all these messages? Says Kanju. I can indeed, yes. Unless, of course, there's like ones with swearing. YouTube probably get rid of those, but majority of them, yeah. We can see them. Any TMO for the Reds try. Says Pro Pleb. Doesn't seem like it for this one. There was the TMO for the... Oh, no. Was there one for the Tom Liner? Yeah, there was. For his second try, they checked it, I believe, but not that one there. Now, going to be kicked downfield. Plummer Talia has now been replaced by Corey Evans. I don't think that's the right choice. I feel like Bowden Barrett, you need to give him all this time. When you pronounce Uru, it sounds like you are hurting yourself. Says Albert. Does it? Oh, looks like someone's hurt themselves. I think that's Bryle was sitting there with his legs in the air like a dead ant. Out. Take McDermott. Downfield towards the sideline. Does get it out. Fargasia has been taken off for Hodgman. Makes his way on. Oh, McDermott trying to mark that quick throw. Yeah, so Corey Evans is out there on the left wing. I'm not sure what their plan is for Bowden Barrett as of yet, but they're down by 14, so they better get to it soon. Ricky Riccatelli, though, he has made his way on. Same with Adrian Choate. Oh, that's going to be another advantage, this time going against Josh Canham. And those need to catch up. Reds winning, Reds is better, says Kanju. Have you heard about the Rugby Premier League? Rugby version of the IPL. It's sevens, isn't it, Nort? If I'm correct, I think that's the one that I'm thinking of. But it's going to be a tackle. No arms, I think it was. Who scored for the Reds? So we're seeing 2 from Tom Liner, 1 from Tate McDermott. So the 9 and 10 been scoring for fun here. And RFP the Blues, top 6 chances. The thing is, though, even if they lose this game, they still have time to get into the top. Or not to the top, but like into that top 6. That's how close this competition currently is. The Force lost, so that helps. The Waratahs, yeah, there weren't many arms. That one from Canham. Sounds like Bowden Barrett might not be a mile away. And Sevens, yes. Yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. Hopefully they have some great players from around the world and it can become a big thing where players can go to play. And let's go Reds, whoop whoop, says Jonas Smith. Now, moving forward. And that one is stuck in there for them all. Yeah, bit of frustration there for everyone by the looks of it. Bit of push and shove. Now it looks like it's going to be a scrum to the Reds. They were able to shut it down. Fraser McWright, one of the smaller players out there on the field in terms of that 4-pack, and manages to come through the middle. And that should... why should they make it to the top 6 so they can be beaten like an old donkey? How's Rugby 25 now? It's at times getting better, but then they bring out an update and it gets worse. So like now they've gone to 1 update a week rather than the 2, which I think was a good move because having 2 didn't really do a lot. Right, Beauden Barrett now is about to make his way onto the field. This is where he needs a performance and a half. We're talking about the amount of points that he has got. He's on for Harry Plummer. And with teams like Mumbai Dream, I would play. Says Nort. Well, that's the thing. We have to decide whether or not it's a competition that we could consider covering. I don't know how copyright would go for it, but big shot from AJ Lamb on Hunter Paisami. Now, McDermott back into the pocket to Tom Liner. 3 Blues players trying to charge it down. He does get it into touch. Currently 24 minutes now remaining. I'm watching a game at Suncorp Stadium. The officiating is so biased that it's not funny. Says IT respect. And the Hurricanes player using the force in the Rugby 25 was so funny. Says Kano. Yeah, there's a few big glitches that they've had so far, unfortunately, which have slightly hurt the game a bit. Now Liner. He almost cards through, tries to get the offload away. But it will go to the Blues now on the halfway line. Finley Christie looking for the 50-22. I don't think he kicked that anywhere near where he wanted to. It came off the side of the boot and he misses the tackle. Run from Bryle. Now told to use it, McDermott. Back into the pocket to Tom Liner. Now nicely taken by Beauden Barrett. Shut down early but gets his pass away to Zahn Sullivan, and that has opened up space. Ioane has dropped the ball. Does find himself at least kind of out on the wing at the moment for Rico, but pass not quite going to hand. Wasn't the best one from Sullivan, I should say. Any Blues tries will be scrutinised 50 plays prior. Says IT. Yeah, that knock on the halfway line was a bit of a brutal one. We did think that there was one at the knock on, or at the time when it happened live, but I don't know how all the TMOs missed it. It's the obligatory Rico drop pass. Says Vic Mars. Seen 3 Reds retained kicks at the moment, and Leinster rethinking their signing, says Nort. Yeah, although they got Geordie Barrett when he wasn't in his greatest form ever, and he's going well now, so maybe Ioane will be the same. Hopefully Ioane will be the same anyway. And Afam and Hamish just got home from the Chiefs' 4th game at Bay Oval in the Mount. What a game, and history has been made. See the Daniel Cox there. Yeah, very solid performance from the Chiefs. A little bit of a shaky start, but once they got those tries of Harry Potter out of the way, they did get a lot stronger. 22 minutes, 14 points difference. The Blues, ideally from this game, of course, you want to win. But if you can't get that win, a bonus point would be handy enough, I would say. Just to help them towards the right direction. Too much wheeling at the scrum, and the penalty goes the way of the Reds. That one was from fella on the far side. Who's winning tomorrow, guys? There's Lance. It's a tricky one. 3 games back to back. Unless you're talking about Glasgow versus the Blues. Or sorry, the Bulls. That one's going to be taking place in only around 7 hours' time. We are going to be covering that one on the channel. And that one's going to be booted into touch there for Tom Liner. I'm going to go for the rolling maul pass. We see the front row popping up there for the Reds. I don't think they've made any changes, or have they? George Blake, I'm not sure if he's out there. I saw that Zane Ungor still is. Vern Cotter, not too happy with what he has seen so far from his side. Now, going to be ready to throw this one in. Nicely claimed by the Reds. Looping around it is Asiata. What a pass that is. Maybe obstruction there. I would think that they will check that one, seeing as they've checked everything else. Moana's second halves need to be studied, says Kano. But yeah, it did look like a Blues and a Reds player collided in front of Lockie Anderson. They're celebrating it big time, but we'll have to see the replay of this one. It's 3rd of the season if it is not disallowed. Right. What happens here? Who hits who is the question. Oh. I think that was maybe fine. Was it a Reds player fell over himself? I'm trying to look around for who. Oh, I mean, he comes through. I think it was Hunter Paisami. And I don't know if he actually affected that breakdown or like that pass. Off topic, but you've probably covered it. But how do you rate James O'Connor form at the Crusaders? Very good finisher, as we saw in that game up against the Blues. But yeah, I do think that when we get to playoff rugby for like multiple teams, they're probably going to go with their leading fly halves. And I think that James O'Connor might be a better option than Taha Kamara. And that is nothing against Kamara. I think you just need that safety of O'Connor. We have there, Hyde's posted up 17 days later, was taken down by YouTube. Says JD. We have there O'Connor for Australia 10. I mean, Donaldson's looking pretty good too. Tom Liner, he's looking sharp. So there are multiple guys who could probably get that jersey, but yeah, he's certainly an option if he wants to be on the British and Irish Lions tour, which I believe he said that he does. But 28 points to 7 at the moment now in this contest, ladies and gents. Mentioned about the chance of a bonus point. At the moment, the Reds have got one. 3 or more tries than their opposition. Zahn Sullivan knocking the ball on again. Unfortunately, if this game is anything to go by, he's almost played himself out of an AB's kit for now. We'll need a couple good games before the end. Donaldson did well tonight. Yeah, he's just seemed to be able to control that back line and that smart kickoff when the Chiefs were napping. They are just showing there that the Blues, points differential-wise, would actually drop to 9th here, below the Highlanders. If this is the way that the score remains, the Reds would need themselves another about 20 points or so to get ahead of the Brumbies, points-wise. Like they are saying, still some tough games for the Blues, and that game up against the Western Force next week becomes even more substantial. Les Kissy will be pretty happy with what his side has done so far. Ball is about to be fed in. There's a big push, and our front rows do stand up, so we will go back for another scrum reset. Oh, and no, McDermott just getting a new ball. I thought for a second he was maybe coming off for Kalani Thomas. I think they've just said that the Blues haven't lost to an Australian side in Australia for 10 months. Which does sound substantial, but then at the same time, that is only probably 5-6 games maybe, depending on the time of the season that they were playing. Of course, playing the Fijian draw in the quarterfinals, so that one wouldn't have counted towards it, and then home for the others. That one's going to be now. Passed across to the right-hand side. McDermott goes to Paisami into the middle. Tackled by Bowden Barrett, who strips the ball. Still think he was maybe onto the field about maybe 10 minutes too late. Okay, says Drape. Oh, nicely taken by Jock Campbell. Met one-on-one by Cole Forbes. What are your thoughts on Stevenson? Do you think he outplayed Potter tonight? I think they were both good in their own ways. Very different games, to be honest. Like, I don't even think that they would be the two that you compare from the match. I probably would have compared Amoni Narawa and Harry Potter, seeing as they were both out on the wing. Now roll back. And that one's going to be put into touch by Tom Liner. Just over the 15 minutes remaining now. The Blues, another opportunity to try and strike here. But just those few held up calls in the first half when they weren't able to get that ball down just definitely did hurt them. Are you planning going to watch the British and Irish Lions live? We are going to be doing the commentary on the channel. We aren't going to Australia to watch those games, but I am going to be doing the watch-along live streams like these ones. Now, going short side, Sam knock off to Satutu. Still seems to be a little bit of fire left in this Blues side, but they have to start firing soon. Was that deliberately knocked down by McDermott? No, he got 2 hands to it, says the ref. It's going to be another scrum going the way of the Blues. What were your thoughts regarding the main, which is Daniel Cox? I think they both had outstanding games. And I think that Potter's performance on a not a Brumby side, but on a Western Force side that, lacked at times being able to get the ball. They didn't have those normal turnovers from Carlo Tizzano that you would normally see. Will Harris, he was in a few battles out there. So I think that Potter's individual brilliance every once in a while, partnered with Donaldson, was thoroughly impressive in a side that overall were just a little bit lackluster across a few of their other positions. Amoni Narawa, he was strong, as you would expect, but, they were just running in tries for fun. So many gaps were opening up. And, I think that definitely still in the running for the ABs there for Narawa. Now Sam Knock, he has made his way onto the field, and that's going to be a free kick now going the way of the Blues. Looks like Satutu's going to take this quick tap. Go off to AJ Lamb, who's sitting only about 20 metres out from the line, tackled by McWright. Pick and go from Ricky Riccatelli. Satutu. Back across now again to Angus Ta'aval. Now Sam Knock, that is a massive gap there. I don't know what the Reds did defensively, but they just gifted Sam Knock a massive try. That was a little bit similar to what we saw for McDermott's try when he was able to score it through a massive defensive error. This gap was absolutely huge for Knock to be able to run through. You see it there, Angus Ta'aval, and then, Sam Knock, I don't think he could believe his luck when he looked through and saw that Paisami and also Alex Hodgman had just left him a massive hole. Now, Beauden Barrett ready to take this kick. The Blues know that if they want to get the bonus point, they have to keep on scoring. The thing is, 2 more converted tries in the next 13 minutes. We would go to golden point. So, be pretty massive. But just a little bit of, I know that it sounds like we're having a bit of a dig here at Finley Christie, but just a bit of pace in the breakdown. Sam not grabbing it quickly, trying to shift it, meant that the defence just weren't quite ready and set. Whereas when Christie was taking his time, passing it off to the side, thinking about it, waiting, then going, it just gave the Reds all the time in the world to be able to defend it. That time they just had to scramble and hope for the best, and that seems to be where the Blues might be able to capitalise in the last few moments. But now they've dropped the ball, so it means that the Reds have got possession back 20 metres out from the Blues line. That is the last thing that the away side needed in this scenario. Kalani Thomas going back across to Fanua Blake. George Blake, I should say. Not Fanua. Now Hunter by Sami, driven backwards by Tui Pelotu. And Chrissy always been slow. Says Drape, and yes, about time, Blues. Now, this looks like Blake might have stayed down with a bit of an injury. I think that was one of his first carries. He does not look too flash at the moment. He's trying to get back up to his feet, but looks like it might have been something in the midsection that has caused him a few problems. No, in fact, it's the leg. Now, a little kick him behind, attempted by Campbell. Rieko Ioane not able to claim it cleanly. Beauden Barrett taking it back into his in-goal area and does manage to kick the ball into touch. The Reds will have themselves the line out only about 10 metres out from the line. Yeah, this doesn't look too good for Blake here. Doesn't look too good for Patrick Tuipulotu either. Might have a bit of an injury after that last tackle made. Yeah, Beauden under a lot of pressure there, Ryan. Trying to cut him off. Taking a cuts. There's one on the knee of Jock Campbell. I think he might have got a sprig down the front of it. Okay. Looks like maybe Richie Asiata, he's going to make his way back on. That is only about 11 minutes to go. He was probably on the field for less than 5. The Aussie refs will win this game, and refs going to punish us for scoring a try, says Drape. Yeah, it does seem like Richie Asiata now will make his way back out there. He just got to sit down, just probably had a bit of a stretch, bit of a drink. And looks like Breyer was also off for Bryant. Mason Tupaya on for the Blues. A few changes being made by both of these sides with just the 10 or so minutes remaining. Yeah, that's a big shame for George Blake, seeing as he just got out there. Hopefully he's going to be all right. Not the straightest throw, but because it wasn't contested, it means that it didn't have to be. Now rolling maul, still happening here for the Reds. Have to make sure that they don't join that one illegally. Mason Tupai trying to get in there. This is going to be a tricky one. The Blues have to be very careful defending there over the line. And I think it's Asiata who will pop up with it. He's only just made his way onto the field for the second time. Thomas's skills are going to win this game. Are we going to get a boil over results this round? Says Jason. I mean, we've seen already 2 results looking like they're going the way of the Aussie sides. The other head-to-head will be the Brumbies when they do go up against the Hurricanes tomorrow. See there, that rolling maul just eventually going down over the try line for the Reds. Very important one, as it does give them their bonus point back. And the game says Mr. All-In. Yeah, it does seem like that might just about be it for this Blues side. This won't help the points differential either. I work with Artie Savia's cousin. She's a gun amateur league player in Western Sydney. She has pace, footwork, and can run the defensive line impressive. So here's Ashley. So she and the amateur league player in Western Sydney, is she looking at trying to go to the women's NRL eventually, maybe? So far following the script, says Jason. The 2 favourites have currently, or at least it looks like, they're going to get themselves the wins here. And like I've said, just doing extremely well here. And I hope the Canes win tomorrow against the Brumbies, says John and bloody hell. Vern, wake up call, says Mr. All-In. Now, it's going to be kicked off again here. Nicely taken by Sir. Who's still out there on the field for the Blues. They've still got Satuto. I'd like to see a last-minute try from him, just like they had, I think it was last week, wasn't it, there? He got a try relatively late. Zahn Sullivan now kicking this one high again. Just outside of the 22. Nicely taken by Jock Campbell. That's just dumb from Zahn Sullivan. That's going to be a penalty. Yep, going the way of the Reds. Sullivan's had an absolute shocker here today, ladies and gentlemen. He has looked far below average. Goes for the charge down, jumps late, no chance of getting the ball, but decides to take out Campbell. Like I said, he tried to pull out, but by then it was far too late, I tell her to. Tell her to go to him for the rugby. She's not into the discipline side of being a professional athlete. She says it's for fun. Excuse the typo, says Ashley. Oh, well, I guess it's a little bit similar to some of the players, how, you know, if that's what they want to get out of sport rather than taking it too seriously, then, like, fair dues to them, you know. In fact, you probably, you know, as long as you know what you want to do with it, and, you know, it might just be something to have a social side of things and whatnot. Tom Liner making his way from the field. Great game for him so far, but the Blues have given up around probably 60 metres from that penalty as they do go to where the kick went to, as well as then kicking the ball into touch. Blues trying to shut it down. Counter right coming from Adrian Shoden off his feet for the Reds players. So I believe this should be the Blues ball. Yes, it is. Nothing wrong with playing for fun. Big ups to her. No game management at all. Selection and bench timing. There's the injuries. But this game should have been tight. Here's Mr. All-In. Oh, well controlled on the halfway line for Jock Campbell there. Now Tim Ryan lined up by Riccatelli. They've just said they need the ball here, the Blues, but they are struggling to get it. They want to take that bonus point away from the Reds. Knock on from Hodgman as well. As I believe that was Blythe. In fact, there might have been Bryant. 7 minutes still. Sounds like they are going to have Mills Muliaina for the Canberra game as well. But yeah, it's just an interesting scenario. Rugby Australia get rid of Rebels has helped screw the Kiwi teams. says Kiwi Rob. Yep, they F the bag man, says Drape. Yeah, I mean, they'll be disappointed in how they'll play it again. There's been a few guys who have slightly stepped up for the Blues, I think, throughout this game, but too many guys that just haven't been active enough out there on the field. And yes, it's hard when it's stop-start and, you struggle to find your rhythm when that's the case. But, yeah, I think they'll still look at this game and go, we could have been in it. And they can still get a little bit of something out of it. They can take away the bonus point of the Reds. They've got themselves the penalty now. So they will go for the touch line. Beauden Barrett needs to make sure this one goes out. If he doesn't make sure it goes out, then that's going to be a problem for them yet again. Oh, we will go like that. And like that as well. There we go. They are just showing the injured Reds, who are Cap Wallabies, Harry Wilson, Liam Wright, Josh Fluke, Felipe Nungunu, Matt Faisler, Josh Nasser, Matt Gibbon. What do you think of the game? Run it straight challenge. Hurt my back doing it. Broke ribs. You certainly have to disregard your own health to be able to do it. Like, some people absolutely love it. I don't think I'd ever do it, just because it just seems like a recipe for disaster. Now, around the side, 10 metres out from the line now. That's getting much closer. 5 metres separating them. Mason Tupai almost losing his footing. Ricky Riccatelli going to be just short again. Can the Blues get over? That's close and they score it. That time I believe it was Anton Segner. Yes, it was. And the Blues look like they still feel like there's half a chance here. There is 5 minutes remaining and Beauden needs this kick to go over. 2 tries in 4.5 minutes now the Blues have left for themselves. The problem that they've had, though, is they just got behind by a few too many earlier on. I think it sounds like you're an idiot for doing it after all those injuries. So here's Jason. Van Cotter, he's looking at the camera to the side going, where was this 30 minutes ago? As if to just say, why aren't my side doing what I tell them to do? I'm scared for the first test of Australia versus Kiwi. Is this how the Kiwis are going to play? Or if this is how the Kiwis are going to play. Now 4 minutes remaining. Of course, there's the whole, this is the Blues at the moment. But you look at the Chiefs and the Crusaders, they're both top of the table. So depending on where the players are from selection-wise, you've got really opposite ends at the moment. You've got the 2 top, and then you've got the 3 outside of the top 6. So, yeah, it just depends on who Rays is actually going to be looking at. Rico Ioane, I'm going to run this one forward. He has had a whole maybe 10 metres carried. Are you covering Glasgow versus Bulls? We certainly are. And Beauden Barrett passes across to Sullivan, who will kick it down the field. I think the Eden Park record is in jeopardy this year, and Kiwi Rugby is done, says Isaac. Is it? I feel like it's still doing not too badly. I feel for the Brits and Irish Lions, says Drape. And now, going off to the right-hand side, Jock Campbell. And there was a forward pass from the Reds, which does mean that the Blues have got themselves another attacking chance. If they score themselves a converted try, they will get the bonus point for being within 7. If they score 2 tries and convert them both, we go to golden point in this matchup. There's still plenty on the line for these two teams. And just showing the run home for the Reds. They've got away against the Fijian draw, away versus the Tars, away versus the Brumbies, then the Hurricanes and the draw. They are both at home. However, there I can let you know if it's still raining here in Ireland, says Pieman, and Kiwi Rugby has done more for rugby and is still doing, says Drape. Now Hoskins a 2-2, breaking off the back. It looks like the rain is really pouring at Suncorp now. Sullivan goes on the outside to Cole Forbes, another man that maybe hasn't quite had the game that he would have liked. Adrian Choate moves up to 40 metres out. Pick and go from, I believe it was, Tui Pelotu. Now that was Tui Pelotu off the bench rather than Patrick, who was in the starting lineup. That is playing the ball on the ground accidentally from the Reds. Sam Knock, that's not a pass that he will be happy with. By Sami hit high, but it's also a knock-on advantage, so they may go back and have a look at that one. Mason Tupai has to play halfback, goes across again. Told to get out of it. Ta'aval across the boat, and Barrett puts the grubber in behind to Evans, but he drops the ball over the goal line. I think he was initially trying to say he was tackled without it, but just fumbling it as he went over the line. So it's going to be the goal line dropout now for the Reds, but that was the half chance that they needed. It was pretty simultaneous, to be fair, with that tackle made from Kalani Thomas. Vern Cotter just said a word that I cannot repeat. I'm sure many of you can probably guess what it was. Goal line dropout. Reds are in no hurry here. Oh no, in fact, knock-on happened in the field of play, so they're going back for the scrum instead of the goal line dropout. That benefits the Reds much more here, as it means that the Blues more than likely won't get that last chance of the game. For the run home of the Blues, they've only got 4 more games. They've got the Western Force at home. They've got the draw away, Moana Pacifica away, and then the New South Wales Waratahs in the last round at Eden Park. The Eden Park record, it seems to me that Scott Robinson and the AB should have, or could be outcoached by Smith. No doubt he'll have that on his wish / to-do list. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people are talking about the matchup between New Zealand and South Africa, but New Zealand have got, is it 1 or 2 games at Eden Park before that one up against the Box? So it might not even be the Springboks who get to take that record away, which has been what is talked about a lot just recently. Could possibly be 0 Highlanders and the All Blacks. We need to bleed some players in the remaining games and come back stronger and more experienced. So that is going to be another scrum reset, which will use the rest of the allocated time. Razor doesn't have the kettle. So here's Mr. Orlin. But the losing bonus point will not be an option for the Blues if they do not get the ball here. The Reds, after losing their last 2 games by 13 points and 12, they will more than happily take a 14-point win over this Blues side. Kalani Thomas, he's going to feed that one in. It is a big push. Oh, knock plays him, and that's going to be a penalty to the Reds. He had to go for it or else was just going to be put into touch. And Kalani Thomas takes the tap, runs it dead. I think Rico's just saying you're not normally allowed to just run it out. Normally you have to at least kick it out, but it's going to be the end. It's the first game since 2019. The Reds have got themselves the win over the Blues on the Springboks. It's the first game at Eden Park. Oh, is it? Okay, never mind then. They will probably want to take that one then. Oh no, because we play France at all sorts of different locations, don't we? I think there's one down south and one at FMG, maybe. Our rugby is the nicest stuff ever. And Drake, well, that was from Drake. And also, rugby is done. Isaac needs glasses, says JD. And there as well. But yeah, good performance from the Reds. Blues, they will once again sit here at the same point and go, what do we do wrong? 2019 is a good record to break. Says Drake. Yeah, all sorts of records are going against the Blues this year. The Brumbies were able to get themselves the first win in a whole heap of years, I think it was. We only have 2 games at Eden Park. Says Kiwi Rob, and good game. The Reds deserve win. Says Mr. Orlin. Yeah, 35 points. The Reds don't get the bonus point for it, but they will get the 4. The Reds gave the Reds the game. Or the refs gave the Reds the game. Says Kiwi Rob there. Yeah, I think Fern Cotter, you could see his frustration in the second half. When they scored that 3rd try of the match of Anton Sydney, he kind of looked to the camera to his side and went, where was this for the rest of the game? So there's obviously something going on in terms of the communication between coach and players that isn't working. Zahn Sullivan, I think that was one of his worst games that we have seen from that man at number 15. Dropped the ball multiple times. Talia, unfortunately, getting a red card. That's always going to make it hard to make an impact. They didn't have Clark out on the other wing. Forbes wasn't really involved. Ioane was lackluster again. There's a lot of problems in this Blues side, unfortunately. I think we need to bring in neutral referees. I mean, yes, there were a few things checked in this game, but honestly, the way that the Blues played, with the exception of about 10 minutes in the second half, I don't think it would have changed much. And that sounds harsh, but they're just making too many mistakes at the moment, the Blues. The Blues didn't help themselves, says Isaac. And also, yeah, good win, Reds. Boys, better luck next time, our boys, says Drape. Vern Cotter needs to go. Wasn't he involved in the Blues campaign last year when they won? Like, I know Leon McDonald, I think, was involved there too, but Vern Cotter was still amongst it, wasn't he? Surprising what a year can do in terms of people's opinions of a bloke, but nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning in. Our next live stream will be in about 7 hours' time, I believe, a little bit less than that, 6.5, and that is going to be the matchup between Glasgow and the Bulls. I don't care. Vern Cotter needs to go, says Kiwi Rob. But yeah, 14-point win for the Reds in this contest, but we got 3 games back-to-back tomorrow. Take care, says Drape, you too. URC, like I said, tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. New Zealand time. We will be up for that one, and then also the 3 games back-to-back after that too. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.